Hello, welcome to Monday Night Live in Lexington, you guys. I am here with our special guest. I never can say it right. Shifu Careaga. Okay, is that right?
Close enough.
Got it. I have my psychic shield on this evening because we are going to be going into a lot of detailed information on the plasma electric universe. I'm trying to get Instagram on here with us, but I don't think that that's going to work. So let me try one more time to get Instagram to join. And if you could,
I could take the moment to unplug a couple things.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
go ahead.
This is of course we're going to have two parts for this science. We're going to talk about all the really fun stuff next time. This is a lot of the basic science, but then this Sunday, at the Ancient Kentucky Historical Association in Louisville, I'm going to be presenting some hush hush stuff. So my paper, like what I'm working on in the paper, and my theories.
Yes.
My crackpot theory. No, but listen.
So crackpot.
Listen,
look
it
at
is.
From
we are
the
the strange
lady who's wearing the aluminum hat.
So people like Rick Osman, who wrote Graves of the Golden Bear, which is about King Arthur in the Kentuckiana region. Mm-hmm. He sometimes comes to the meetings, and then I wanted to also mention that we are getting all sorts of cool things printed that are old books at my school. So people can actually come and borrow as long as they provide collateral.
Great
this
job.
one happens to be the early visits of foreigners, but I've got all sorts of like magic and alchemy books and stuff. Things from usually over 100 years. So the copyright is out. It's not possible to get. So that project's ongoing, and it's going really well. In fact, Harvard just wrote to me today.
Awesome. Awesome.
Are we up?
Let's do some shout-outs here. Gosh, sorry, guys. I just am off in La La Land this evening. Hey, to Angie Schnell, Jennifer Milanese, Danny Adams, nice to see you. Yasmin Jadoon, Brandy Wells, Lori Medea, thanks for chiming in there, Medea. We were worried about you guys the last couple days down in Florida. I'm glad to see you guys are okay.
That's good enough.
Hey to Willow Rose, kisses. I haven't seen you in so long. Nice to see you on here. Tim Rogers, Helen, Lori, hey to Shay, and Tasha, Bud, and Jennifer. Thanks for joining us this evening. We are going to find out about the plasma electric universe. And plasma, what is it? What the heck is it?
So they call it the fourth state of matter. It's actually really the state of matter. And then the three other phases are kind of extra. So I brought this little handy diagram.
Here, I'll be the, they do on the game shows, I'll just...
gases are what are closest. It's another type of fluid, and it moves about. But the difference is between gas and plasma is it's charged, full of ions, and sometimes they're energetic. There's about 4 different states of plasma as a general umbrella, but it comes in a lot of forms that you're familiar with, such as fire and lightning, and thermite, and all sorts of different things that we don't really think about, but it's in fluorescent light bulbs. And it's really all over. And where they've been looking for dark energy and dark matter to fill in the gaps, it already does fill the gaps. It's just that
the plasma does.
Yeah, when it's in dark mode, you don't notice it's there. But until you zoom out and you start noticing all these galaxies are lined up on kind of frequencies, and they're all aligned in the same way, which is statistically impossible with gravity model. And there's a whole lot of things about the sun that we'll get into. So plasma is the real deal.
What are we looking at
well,
here?
that's solids, liquids, and gases. So as you're more solid, then everything's in a lattice, and then liquids are weighed down, but they can move about, and then gases are free to always expand.
Right here.
And in fact, people need to really go to Sky Scholar and Dr. Robitaille's channel to get a picture of what is it that gases are really like. For example, if you put them in an open container like space, they're not going to collapse and form a star. Gases are going to go out. You have to work on them from the outside to keep a gas compressed.
Yeah.
So, but plasmas are highly energized, so they can do all sorts of interesting things. And we're going to also get into the Project Sapphire update what I've been able to see from the conference, which is out now. They did the conference the weekend before the eclipse, and now it's out. It's $29. You can watch all the videos. They're not putting them on regular YouTube because nobody's making money on YouTube anymore because of the way that
they
what
changed
they're doing.
the algorithm.
Right. So now the conference is on there, but $29 for 4 days of
that's
material
pretty good,
is
actually.
so.
So the properties of the gas.
They change as soon as they become ionized and they start flowing around. Of course, you got free electrons, you got protons, you got gamma rays, you got all these things embedded in the solar wind. And of course, people don't think about it, but out of your fluorescent light bulbs, there are small amounts of X-rays and gamma rays that come out.
What does ionization mean for those that are watching tonight?
An ion is when you add or subtract an electron.
So what happens to the particle?
Well, take an atom, just a whole, like say the hydrogen atom. When you ionize it, it changes its property towards either being more conducive to bonding or less conducive to being bonding. So in some ways, it's a lot like discussing acids and bases.
What we're all familiar with,
and they're very, very hot.
Is they used to sell those ionizers. And you could smell it in the air.
Right. So you're talking, so when you make ozone is an example of an ionized gas because ozone is O3 plus. It has one extra oxygen and it's missing an electron, so it wants to bond. So when you're smelling it, it's probably bonding actually with parts of your body. It's actually bad for you.
Yes.
It's very good for it to go up in the atmosphere. Right. Ionizers are great in theory because they, of course, kill things. As any acid would be.
Right.
Right. So the headache that you get from ozone, and in fact, this thing also puts off ozone, not just electric fields, what we're going to discuss, but you can actually smell it, and after a time, so you either have to be in a ventilated space or a large space like this, or just turn it off because it will give you headaches.
So what is this thing?
This is a plasma orb. I got this one for like $20 at Walmart once, so to teach my kids things. We went over in the first episode how you could take a CL bulb and hold it away from it, and it will still light it up.
That was really cool.
Yeah, it is very cool.
Yeah.
And what I came to show today was actually the next little step. I wanted to show people just how powerful these electric fields are. So this is a voltmeter, and if I turn this to the 600 volt AC, so this is a very good. I believe it's a Cat 3 meter. Yeah, it's a Cat 3 meter. So this is the kind you want if you're checking your breaker so that it doesn't turn into a grenade in your face.
Oh, we don't want that.
Right.
But I have my hat on.
People need to know this. Do not buy cheap voltmeters like Cat 1, Cat 2 meters and measure high voltages because they can turn into grenades in your hand. We're talking 10,000 degrees instantly. So a Cat 3 meter or above is really the nice one to go. I got this one at Lowe's. And so if I turn on this orb,
I really think that is just cool.
It is super cool. And if you go like this, of course, it attracts, right, because you're grounded, and so it helps to focus the energy, and then the plasma flows in an arc. Okay, now if I measure it, I don't really get anything. A little,
maybe
0.01.
0.01, yeah.
Right, and if I'm away from it, I don't get anything either, for sure, right? Because the permittivity, which is the inability to conduct, it's like the opposite of conductivity, is that the glass too high? Well, it's not just the glass, but the air too, right? The air is, right? Now, but we made a tinfoil hat from the aluminum foil here for it. And now I want people to pay close attention. First of all, as I get near to, this thing can actually pick up the electric field. Let's see. Is that on the right setting? Let me make sure.
Yeah, it's on 600?
It'd probably be pick it up a little bit better if it was on 200 volts. I was doing it pretty well earlier. Let's turn it to 200 volts. So on 200 volts, let's see if we can get. Well, it was doing it earlier, picking up just the electric.
Oh, there
a little bit. So the electric field being active. Okay, but anyway, so let's go back. it may be a little hard because it can happen so fast. First of all, this thing burned me right as we were just
I
preparing
know,
earlier.
it
like
did.
A little dot there. You could smell it. You could smell it.
Oh, God.
So you put this
Oh,
here.
there it goes.
There was see if we can catch it. See, once it gets to that
there
L,
was a flash of 100 on there. 74,
let's see if we can get to
66, 82.
Let's see if we can get 400.
Oh, Lord.
There's 160,
170.
So what's happening is it's actually overloading this Cat 3 voltmeter. Blew my father away. He couldn't believe it. I mean, you're talking 600 volts. This is twice what would be coming off of the line into your house.
Yeah.
Into your house, not out of the thing, but actually you're talking usually it's 240 volts and
there goes 194, 231.
So what's happening is the metal, the aluminum is actually catching the electric field and then directing it, all those free electrons that had been, obviously the electric field was making the plasma move underneath the orb, but the electric field is so strong that then we can create a plasma arc right there. And
yeah, 206, 167, 158.
So those are actually plasma arcs outside, and it's where there's free electrons all around us. So there's actually tons of free energy. We're not in a world that is low on energy.
No,
we're in a world that's low on, I guess, ideas. Really,
yes.
If anything.
Let's see if any of you guys have a question for Shifu, please put it in the comments, and we'll try to get to those. I want to shout out to Melissa Begley and Betty Jo Coffey, Elizabeth, Newsom Redding, and Josh West. Thanks for joining.
Hi.
Let's see, Casey Flora, Angie Russ, David Riles, Tracy, Amanda, Tina, Phillip, Candace, Margaret, Patricia, AJ, and Tracy Moore. Thanks for joining us tonight. And Helene Chopin, nice to see you tonight, and Samantha Taylor. So we've gone over the properties of gases. We need to talk about this dark matter and the impossibility of black holes.
Well, if you really want to know, you need to watch the video, Stephen Crothers Destroys Quackademic Black Hole Theory. And a lot of it has to do with math. I'm going to warn people right now, it's going to deal with Riemannian spaces and dividing by zero. His new talk in the latest presentation at the EU conference actually has a great summary of the two incompatibilities between Big Bang and black hole, just internal inconsistencies between the two that have to do with you can't just put any number of infinite spaces. When you're talking about a singularity, it literally is the only mass in the universe. It's infinite and all these things. There's a whole list of reasons why they're incompatible. And I know people are going to say, well, they found gravity waves. No, they didn't find gravity waves. They found noise. And then they found a best line to fit that. And there happened to be the other lab that's supposed to confirm the gravity waves happened to be shut down. So we're talking big money that was made as a part of a reward for for LIGO finding gravity waves. And people have gone back and looked at the data, and it looks like a fraud. So yeah, the thing is that the more they've tried in the last 2 years, several papers have been released, is they've tried to find dark energy. They set out to find dark energy and to prove dark matter. They actually end up proving the opposite. And you know what they found? What they found at the center of the Milky Way galaxy is not a massive black hole. What they found is actually a collection of charged particles, which means plasma, super dense plasma at the center in dark mode, because it has no reason to be charged, right? If it were ignited, then it would be on. And believe it or not, there are in the Enuma Elish, in the Sumerian text, it talks about a time when our sun was in a darker state. It was not. It was not in its current state. It ignited sometime in human history.
So, well, but there's so much that the sun affects.
I think we got a question here from Amala. Why is he even doing this? I'm not sure what she means by.
Please clarify your question.
I'll answer the broader question, which is that when I was searching for Kentucky locations, I started to learn about certain Native American histories, which is what my talk at the Ancient Kentucky Historical Association is going to be about. And then from there, basically I just stumbled into these people, this electric universe. And the more I went, now my background's electrical engineering, the more I went into it with a very skeptical mind. I mean, I come from the Church of Science since, before I could walk, really.
Yeah.
The more I go into it, the more it is a better model. I mean, there's even better formulas now for Maxwell's equations. Maxwell's equations have real big problems, and there are better ones now available through a guy named Destinti. You can find him on YouTube. So I just needed to get out there and talk about it, and that's what led Kathryn and I discussing all this weird stuff.
And so, and Mala, to answer your question, this is one of the newest theories on the structure of the universe and how things are interrelated through plasma electrical energy. And also, it's kind of my theory. You know how when you see a lot of ghost hunters and they'll have activity in a room and they'll be watching it from a monitor and you can see the stuff happening, and then they go into the room and then nothing happens, like it all stops. So my theory is what happens is this plasma web of electricity is set up by the entity. Once you go into that area, you go into that room, you've disrupted that web of plasma energy, and of course that structure is going to stop. That activity is going to stop. So there you go.
Actually, Samantha brings up a good point. It is possible, of course, that other planets could harbor life, and plasma would probably have a huge role to play in that, because this solar wind, this seeding of, really they found every element in the solar wind is going out everywhere, and outside of our own. I mean, even the comet. Where did that one image go with the comet?
This one.
Right. I mean, you wouldn't know, but this came off of Rosetta, and it's in color on the web, of course. But that's just a comet, and it has an aura of energy, of electromagnetic energy coming off of it.
Right.
Our sun has one. The Earth has one. I brought that.
I'll hold it up so you can get a better look at it. But this is the solar wind around the comet.
Same thing with the Earth. And so our solar system has that, and the galaxy has that, and the galaxy cluster has that, called Laniakea, and all of them are just putting energy out everywhere. It's really kind of a repetitious pattern or behavior in nature.
But this theory is making a lot more sense than some of the other ones, I think.
Yeah, well, the problem with I have no problem with mysticism. Okay, the problem is when you use math that you've made up, and then you have no verifiable way to test it, then it's no longer science. And what they have with the Electric Universe, they have Project Sapphire. They actually have a way they're testing it. They call it the star in a jar. And they are doing that, and it's unbelievable. Some of they had a tungsten probe in there that should last 30 minutes in a TIG welding experiment, and it vaporized in 15 seconds.
Wow.
They measured 7,000 electron volts, which was the equivalent of 81,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and they've got this contained in a steel chamber. It could never be done before, believe it or not, in all the 20th century, because no one had the cooling ability. So they always did them just like Sapphire Phase 1. It was a small jar. It was basically just a big version of that. Now they got real power behind it, and the things that they're discovering are unbelievable. It's nonlinear.
So Project Sapphire is actually testing some of this theory out to answer you guys' questions. So let's go on to thermodynamics and Sky Scholar.
Well, I mentioned Sky Scholar already. The main thing about that is that, in the discussion of Kirchhoff's law and proving that, black bodies don't work the way that Kirchhoff and Max Planck just kind of guessed, actually. He never did the experiment himself. Dr. Robitaille proving that. And now we're starting to see, probably, and this is a little bit embarrassing when they finally reveal it, the cosmic background radiation map that they put out. First of all, it was almost all noise. They had to filter it in a certain way to get rid of the noise, and it just basically they just kind of used it after that. But pretty much that cosmic background radiation really is actually reflecting from the ocean. And he starts talking about, we'll watch Dr. Robitaille's talks, but he started, and this is the guy who came up with MRIs, okay? So MRIs, the ability to have 8 electromagnetics in your MRIs is all due to the fact that black bodies don't work the way that Max Planck and Kirchhoff said.
That's embarrassing.
So, yeah, so Dr. Robitaille, now he's been totally attacked, like on Rational Wikipedia and everywhere, but he's showing video of nuclear bombs when they go off, and there's black water coming across from the waves because water itself behaves in certain conditions like a black body. Also in the EU conference, they've got a guy who wrote the 4th phase of water, and he's talking about plasmas, how they relate to water, and this all gets into life. So there was an entire day at the EU conference where they were talking about life and medicine and plasma. So it goes all over the place.
So
it's in everything.
What he's talking about is the Electric Universe Conference.
That's right.
And where was it held and when? And when
Phoenix,
is the next one?
Probably be next August in Phoenix
August.
again. Yeah, I wasn't able to go this time, but for $29 you can.
You can watch it. Yeah, and we'll put a link in the comments after the show. I'll probably put a link in there tomorrow to that so that you can, if you want to purchase and watch. I would love to be able to watch.
We should probably talk a little bit about the sun. We're not going to get to all the geology. I'm going to briefly mention the geology.
Okay, let's go to the sun. Make sure my hat is on.
So here's the thing. It's going to blow people away. And I know that this is going to be hard to hear because I, like you guys, was raised in school, evolution, Big Bang, etc. And we're going to stay away from all the hollow theory. We're just going to talk about the surfaces of the sun. So we've got multiple layers of the sun, and there are some things about the stories that we were told about the sun that is not really the truth. In thermodynamics, temperature decreases the further you get away from the source, okay? Because the infrared energy is diffusing. But actually, in fact, the sun gets cooler as you go into it. The sunspots show it's actually cold inside.
Which is really weird to think of it like that.
The surface of the sun is cooler than lightning. And but if you go another 1,000 miles up, it's over 1 million degrees.
Jeez.
So which is a real big problem for nuclear fusion. That doesn't work in thermonuclear fusion. Also, the sun is spherical. Based on the way it rotates, it actually should be an ovoid, but it's not. So it can't be held together by gravity. Dr. Robitaille has another video solely based, the whole thing is on, does the sun have a real surface? Because, believe it or not, up until now, the black hole Big Bang people have maintained that the surface is actually an illusion. That it's a gas, it's completely diffuse, and you go right through it. But he proves in a step-by-step manner that you can watch that the sun has a real surface. Now that surface is like kind of a metallic hydrogen, we think, and it has what's called anode tufting going on. And that's the granulations that are moving around on the surface of the sun. And you can see them in the orbit. They move around. The more you get, then the faster they move, and then they start to become lifelike, which is exactly what they found in Project Sapphire. And so this anode tufts, and then of course there's the scalloping that goes on. I mean, we've got a picture here of the tornado. Did you have that one still?
I think that one's over here.
I mean, there's tornadoes the size of Earth.
That's crazy. Look at this.
You can watch the video of the tornado the size of Earth.
There it is, right there.
Right, and so electric tornadoes. And speaking of which, you were asking me about these hurricanes and about the sun, because there's a simultaneous event, and this is you can't ignore it anymore. And CNN and the Weather Channel aren't going to talk about it, but it's just there. So we had the seeding of the storms. The storms start moving, and then suddenly there's these massive solar flaring events. There's a proton storm. Then there's a small solar flare. Then there's 2 X level solar flares in a row. Then there's another one a day later, and suddenly we have 3 hurricanes. Right, and people are noticing this. I mean, this is the internet, so we can see things now that they weren't going to tell us about before. And so, what is going on there?
So well, we have to have these. We have to have new explanations.
Well, here's this is where the electric universe, right? So the weather thing, and there's a whole talk on the new conference just about the weather, about why it rains. So basically, what you have is you have a large body of water, and it's above the ocean. So you have a capacitance plate. As it starts spinning, now it's gathering up more energy, more heat, and it's getting bigger. Now there's an inductive current going on because it's spinning. And anytime you have a magnetic field, you have an electric field, and anytime you have an electric field, you have a magnetic field. And when they start spinning, now you have current. And an inductor stores current, and a capacitor stores potential or voltage.
But that's why the hurricane gathers so much energy over water not land. Land dampens it out.
That's right. It doesn't. It eliminates that initial capacity, but it's a machine that's going. Now it gets to a certain level, and the magnetic tunnels coming from the sun, it's actually able to draw, because they've proven the magnetic tunnels from the sun. That's mainstream NASA science. It can actually pull those particles down and strengthen itself. And it's no surprise that the Hurricane Irma did not go directly over Florida, because it would not be conducive to its mechanism. Right? It's a self-propagating machine. So that water's cold, so it chose the path that had the warmer water. And to keep it going. So think of it as a rotating, basically it's a machine. It's a rotating inductor capacitor. The capacitance is the space between. Of course, the Bernoulli's effect is what lifts the water. That, and there is some electric attraction, I think. And then the circulation stores current, and that's why it can keep going even a little bit. It loses its source of its power, but it keeps going. Past it keeps spinning for a long time because of angular momentum. All the Newtonian stuff still remains. Make
sure there's no questions here. So, hey to Tom, Marie, and Samantha, and hey to Joe Ray, and Terry, and Pam. Hey, Julia. Let's see if there's any questions. Hi to Imogene and Marie, and Dana and Eva. Yes. Nice to see you guys.
Yes, plasma has layers. They are actually stabilizing in the Project Sapphire multiple layers. They call them double layers. And in Sapphire Phase 1, they got up to 15. In this one, they're so high energy, they've only gotten to like 2 or 3 so far, but they'll get there eventually. And that's why the sun has so many layers, because it has these double layers.
Yes, and let me just, here we go, all these layers.
Look at all those layers. Jeez. And then again, anything below here is all speculative. We don't actually know what's happening inside the sun. That's a thermonuclear model that they've created, and it's not really holding up very well. But we don't abandon the model until we have a different model that proves itself. That's why NASA is launching probes all over the place. They're launching new electric measuring probes everywhere, because they've quietly admitted that there's actually electric current, and they're starting to talk in those terms. They don't want to call them Birkeland currents, but we're not going to let them avoid Hans Alphen and Birkeland and not give them credit, because these guys were talking about it 100 years ago.
Guess what? We're almost out of time.
I know, it's terrible.
Gosh. Okay, so what can we squeeze in the last of
the stones. I know she's just like looking at these stones. So
I'm
going to bring, so these are examples of various stones. Most of these are from Kentucky. In fact, all of these are from Kentucky. So maybe you can show them off.
They are beautiful. See, I'm going to be
Okay. So how do you think these are formed?
Pressure.
Right, well, most of these that you're holding.
This is a geode.
Well, this one's the geode. This one's actually fossils.
Oh, I see, yeah.
See, those are lithostriones.
I love geodes.
Right. And this was actually, I found that on a feng shui hike under a waterfall, and it was in its egg form, and then it was in half form, and then it came up. How about this one? What do you think?
It looks so smooth.
Yeah.
Like it would be water.
It is what that's from 300 Springs Waterfall.
Oh, cool.
And so that's again calcium deposits from a spring, from a natural spring. So you can see it's porous and it's lit. Now here we're getting some weirder ones. So what do you think of that one?
That one's beautiful, and it got
looks
so
like,
many. This is pressurized.
It looks like a stalactite or stalagmite. It didn't come out of a cave.
Wow.
It did not come out. In fact, it came off of the same land as the one with the fossils. Same place.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, tell us about what you think.
Well, I'm not a professional geologist. However, my point is a couple of things. And you look at this natural sandstone. Now, according to standard geology, you get layers upon layers from when it was an inland sea. And then when the layer changes, you get a different type of stone that forms. The problem is not that it's formed a layer, but now that layers are orthogonal to each other. And you can't tell me that stone's been deformed by pressure inside of that tiny space. It's not reasonable. So some other process is needed to understand that. And it so happens that one of those extra processes is actually the electric process. And they don't want to talk about it a lot, but like the blueberries on Mars are not formed by water. They've admitted that very quietly, because originally everyone said, oh my God, this is proof of water, but they didn't find any water. It's actually proof of electric discharge from Alma. And we're going to go over that the most in the next episode. But before I do, I wanted to see, what do you think of this stone?
That's crazy. It's 2 in 1.
I'm going to give everybody a look.
It's like...
You know what this is?
No, I don't know what it is. I want to touch it.
Go ahead. That is a thunder egg.
Oh my God.
So according to the Sioux and various tribes, that came from Mars. And that's why it looks exactly like a Martian rock on the back.
So Imala, this is a thunder egg. And the slice of it you might be interested in. That is really,
Doesn't it
really
look like
cool.
It's been electrified?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and according to the Native Americans of this continent, those came from space during the cataclysmic event. And you can order these on the internet yourself. They just call them thunder eggs or Martian thunder egg. Of course, the Martian bit they consider to be completely. They have a standard geological way of explaining this, but it doesn't look anything like any geodes that I'm familiar with.
No, it doesn't.
Furthermore, the back looks exactly like a Martian rock.
It does.
It looks exactly like a Martian rock. Well, according to all the legends.
Well, let me show them.
The world has been pelted with these for a long, long time. And
that's the back.
Again, in the EU conference, they talk a lot about all the domer huts that were made. I mean, you should see the stones people were using to make roofs. They have like little bitty stone pillars, but they've got this huge limestone slab that a tribe would have worked to put that on as quickly as possible to avoid the coming down. And of course, when Kali, the goddess Kali, and her tongue came down, it's just like sweeping across, and all the Sumerian legends talking about red choking dust coming and vaporizing whole cities. They're gone. There are scorch marks on Egyptian statues, massive Egyptian statues. So it's not like torching fire. We're talking big scorch marks. There's quartzite from some kind of nuclear level bomb power. And how would you get rid of 2,000 feet of glacier? I want to ask you that. How do you get rid of 2,000 feet of glacier and selectively certain animals? Not all the bears, just a short-faced bear.
What we're trying to bring to light is the fact that, people from eons ago were citing plasma electric energy and carving the pictures into rocks and discussing, the thunder egg and the electricity behind it. And so now we're trying to put all this stuff together.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they're finding new Atlantises. Atlantises are no longer, it's like, did it exist? They're popping up everywhere. I mean,
here we go.
Brand new, off the coast of Britain. There's another one. Atlantis is turning out not to be one place, but an entire several and they were all submerged in giant cataclysms. And I hope people join us for the next one because we're going to talk about all the fun, the geology scarring.
My head got too hot. My head got too. My head
We're
got
going to talk
too
about
hot.
it in the comets on Mars, and we're talk about it here and on the moon.
Yes.
Because the proof is the moon.
So stay tuned. And before we end for the evening, let's find out what's for dinner, David.
Okie dokie. We're going to be having citrus chicken hearts, cilantro rice, and salad.
Yum.
Hey, what about
Chicken
that?
hearts. Good for the heart blood.
So thanks for joining us this evening. Stay tuned for part 2 because there's a whole lot of other stuff to cover. Kisses from Kentucky, and we're going to shut down all of these streams. So.